Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hooked on Sports. This is episode number 405 of the program here on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn. I am back here for another week in the world of sports conversation. So I'm going to get you some of my biggest takes from after the NFL draft, a week since the draft began, and we've had time to dive into everything that transpired after the draft. I'll do a quick run up on the National Hockey League with their playoffs, the NBA playoffs. I just started recording this podcast immediately after the end of the game tonight between the Lakers and the Rockets, which the Rockets won. They forced a game 6 in Houston on Friday night, so I'll get into that. I'll get into some of the latest in Major League Baseball, and then I'm going to cap off by giving you my pick to win the Kentucky Derby on Saturday at Churchill Downs. But I do want to start with the NFL draft, and look. My biggest take from the entire weekend was revolved around the Rams drafting Ty Simpson with the 13th overall pick in the draft, and there are people out there that are crucifying the pick that they didn't have Ty Simpson as being worthy of being a first-round pick, that he thought that it would be a mistake by the Rams when they had a quarterback that just won league MVP, but then drafted another quarterback the following year despite him being on the same team. No. So what I'm going to do here to start is defend the Rams for drafting Ty Simpson at pick 13. Because it should be noted that even if Ty was the pick at 13, Ty Simpson was the pick at 13, the Rams, to me, entered the draft with the best roster in the NFL. They were the most complete team, so they had addressed areas of deficiency, particularly the cornerback position. Because if you think of how the Rams lost their games last year, the common denominator was bad corner play. So they address it by trading for Trent McDuffie, and they signed Jalen Watson to complete that defense. So that's number one. Number two, the Rams had the 13th overall pick in the draft, and it is hard for a team with such a big winning reputation, like the Rams have with Les Snead and Sean McVay, to have a draft pick as low as this. But thanks to the trade with Atlanta last year, Atlanta wanted to move up to select another edge rusher while giving up a first round pick. Well, the Falcons did not make the playoffs, and the Rams picked at 13. So, and you figure this was probably their only chance to draft a franchise quarterback and a potential successor to Matthew Stafford without having to move trade capital, because there's a big case that they're already talking about how hyped next year's NFL draft class is, based on the amount of talent and the quarterback class that'll come out next year. So, and I thought Ty Simpson had the look of a franchise quarterback at times last year. I think everyone forgot how well he played before he got hurt. I'm happy it's that even though the debate over whether Alabama should be in the CFP, that's still going to be documented, whether it was Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame, and all that. But with that being said, Ty Simpson looked really good against Oklahoma first round of the college football playoff. Yeah, he was terrific. He made all the big throws he needed to make, and he led Alabama to a victory where I thought they weren't going to win that night. So I'm happy about that. And there were two quarterbacks in this draft class that I viewed as franchise quarterbacks: Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Not Carson Beck, not Drew Lauer, just Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Because and I think that Simpson is now going to learn under Sean McVay, learn under Matthew Stafford. It's a future Hall of Fame quarterback, and what I believe at the end of the day is going to be, especially if the Rams win the Super Bowl this season, because I think this is the Rams' championship to lose this year. That you can make the case that this is the best Rams team going into a season, in terms of talent, experience, and toughness in the era of Sean McVay. So you have that. You have that to consider as well. So you have the opportunity to draft a quarterback without moving resources and moving the world to get him. Yeah, you have McVay and Stafford and the best, in my opinion, the far and away the best roster in football, the most complete roster in football. And I think the difference here between this situation and a situation like 6 years ago when the Packers traded up to draft Jordan Love. They traded up for Jordan Love. The Packers never let Aaron Rodgers know that they were going to move up to draft a quarterback. Sean McVay and Les Snead told Matthew Stafford that they were talking to Ty Simpson, and turned out that he gave him the clear on do that. So there was a clear communications standpoint there. And if the Rams do wind up winning the Super Bowl this year, I think there's a good chance that Stafford retires because he'll want to go out on top with winning another championship this year. So you have all those things lining up brilliantly for the Rams, which is why I will defend Ty Simpson. The Rams have been given the benefit of the doubt. So when it comes to coaching and development, and I think that's where things need to go here if we want to have some honest conversations about the Rams and their chances of winning the championship. But I do want to give you 5 teams that I thought nailed the weekend, and the 5 teams that I just didn't necessarily agree with. So the team that I thought that had the best weekend of any of the 32 teams was the team that had the worst weekend last year in the Cleveland Browns, because I thought the Browns knocked this draft out of the park. Because, first of all, they had the 6th overall pick. They traded down to 9. They picked up some more picks, and then they used a 3rd round pick to trade even further and get more assets in the draft, which they did with the Giants to trade up and draft Malachi Fields. So they still wound up drafting Spencer Fano with the 9th overall pick. That they drafted Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston with their next 2 picks, and then they got a potential steal at pick 58 with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the outstanding safety from Toledo. And they wound up going deeper into the offensive line with a pick there at 86. So I thought the Cleveland Browns were terrific. And look, I think the Browns are going to be better than people think this year. I think that they can take advantage of some instability going on around the AFC North this year with the Steelers and all that. And I'm not saying they're gonna make the playoffs, because trust me, if I think this Browns team is gonna make the playoffs, I would be crazy. But Is 6 wins good enough for the Cleveland Browns to say that there's progress with that 6 wins, 7 wins? I could see this Browns team at the end of the day, so playing potential spoiler to a team that need to win to make the playoffs in December or January. So I would not sleep on the Cleveland Browns this upcoming season. We also got to talk about the Raiders because everything is lining up well for the Raiders to do some good things this year. And it helps when you have a front office that's aligned, a coaching staff that's now aligned, and bringing in Fernando Mendoza to start the draft, the obvious pick, and I think him and Kubiak coming in together, I think is a big plus, a big positive for the Raiders, and they wound up cooking in other places too. The one other pick that stood out to me was starting out the fourth round of the draft by selecting Tennessee corner Jamal McCoy, who wound up missing all of last year due to a torn ACL. But so that's why he was supposed to be a top 16 pick in the draft. He fell all the way down to fourth because the teams flagged the injury concerns, but credit the Raiders for taking the risk, rolling the dice, and allowing Jamal McCoy to be able to continue to heal and give an opportunity to play. So I thought the Raiders had a terrific draft. I also kind of like what the Jets did in the draft because even though I would have picked Arvell Reese instead of David Bailey with the second overall pick, but since this was a big rebuilding team, and it became clear last year that they were in a big rebuild. But now there's some more pieces in place for the future to give their next potential quarterback a good launching pad for potential success. They drafted Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, with pick 16, and then they moved up from fourth to moved up back into the first round and select Indiana wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr. Of course, because in what I believe was the drive that sealed the Heisman for Fernando Mendoza that come back against Pittsburgh. Not against Pitt, Penn State in November. He was the one that made that incredible leaping catch at the back of the end zone for a touchdown to give Indianapolis the lead and eventually the win. I think this is a kind of a sense of hope for the Jets fans, and that they have a plan that they have a tunnel vision. And I think you have to like big picture. I don't know about this year because you're stuck with having Josh Allen and Drake May in your division. But this Jets team I think can win more. Well, I think could double their win total from this year to last. I think they can win 6 games this year and really start to move the engines toward a sense of hope here for the Jets. Now, another team that I really liked with their draft was the New York Giants, and the Giants obviously got their first big win of the draft, because by swooping up Arvell Reese at 5. I would have wanted Sonny Styles in every other case except in the case that Arvell Reese was there, where he kind of like had to take him. So Arvell Reese, he was an edge rusher who can play off-ball linebacker. So I would have to trust the process with John Harbaugh and what he wants to do there. And then instead of drafting Caleb Downs, and like I never understood all the hype when you actually see the tape of Caleb Downs. I'm glad they saw past the smoke and the hype. And they drafted what was arguably the best or second best offensive lineman available in this year's draft, and Francis Malinois, the tackle from Miami with the 10th overall pick. And then also them drafting Colton Hood and then trading for Malachi Fields, who is who I thought was excellent in one-on-one and played well against man coverage for Notre Dame as a wideout last year. I feel like John Harbaugh is starting to build an identity with physical athletic toughness for his Giants teams. I also love what the Carolina Panthers did with their draft too. So that they addressed the trenches in the first 2 rounds of the draft. They drafted the tackle Morgan Freeland with pick 19. One of my favorite picks of round 3 was the Panthers getting Chris Brazil with pick 83. He could be a dangerous downfield weapon. He shares some physical characteristics with Randy Moss, who might very well have been the most talented wide receiver to ever play the game. I'm not saying the greatest, because the greatest, of course, is Jerry Rice. But in terms of a talent perspective, you have to argue that Randy Moss is up there in terms of how talented he is. So we'll see how that transpires. And then I also love the Sam Hecht pick in round 5 as well. So I thought that was a great draft for the Carolina Panthers this year. So I also really liked what Washington did. I also liked what the Philadelphia Eagles did. They traded up 3 spots to draft Mekhi Lemon with the 20th overall pick, which basically tells you that the A.J. Brown distraction is going to be gone as soon as he's traded post June 1. And I think it's encouraging to be a fan of, if you're a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now the drafts that I wish could have gone the other way. Well, the teams wish they should have gone the other way. And I got to start with San Francisco, because I think you can look at San Francisco as a team that I think is going to take a big step back this year, because you don't know how much you're going to get from Christian McCaffrey. So they took advantage of a ridiculously easy schedule last year. There were games that they would have lost against tougher competition last year. But then the Niners traded out of the first round, and they start round 2 with Deshaun Stribling, a wide receiver that nobody had heard of until when the Niners picked him at pick 33. That made no sense. And with every pick the Niners had in the draft this year, there were prospects in the positions they had drafted in that were ranked ahead of the players that they ended up taking, and didn't really address the flaws of the roster that were exposed in the playoffs last year when they got creamed by Seattle in the divisional round. Also, not to mention the whole Brandon Ayuk situation, that I never understood that Ayuk contract either. So I think at the end of the day, the San Francisco 49ers to me right now are in danger of missing the playoffs. Like, if the season were to end, were to start today, it doesn't. I would pick the Rams to win the division and have the Rams be the only representative of that division in the playoffs. Like, I think Seattle took a step back this year. I think I was not a fan of what the Arizona Cardinals did. Which I also have here. We're drafting Jeremiah Love at 3, but again, there's nothing to take away from Jeremiah Love. I just don't. You just don't. You just had needs at other positions, and it would have been nice to have someone like Arvell Reese, who can wreck games. With some game-changing ability. Same thing too with Sonny Styles, but regardless, it wasn't a great draft by them. Another team that I feel that I think is going to be in danger of missing the playoffs this year after making it last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I was not a fan of the draft class at all last year. They traded up and drafted Travis Hunter. Again, they coughed up a first round pick this year. And now Travis Hunter is going to play more corner than receiver because it was clear that even he can't handle playing 120 snaps in the NFL in 60 minutes and more. They started their draft by taking Nate Boerkerker, a tight end, at 56. So as there were plenty of tight ends available. And then they drafted Albert Regis in round 3, a defensive tackle from A&M as well. I did not like that one as well. And then they drafted more of the tight ends. So I was very confused on what the Jaguars did. I just think that James Gladstone is just throwing darts. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room based upon what happened last year. Jacksonville winning the division, making the playoffs. Going neck and neck with Josh Allen and the Bills in a must-win game in the playoffs, but that wasn't great as well. I do think Minnesota is going to bounce back, and I think they can make the playoffs this year. But man, I was a little disappointed with what they did in the draft. They wound up taking Caleb Banks at pick 18. I thought Daniel Thieneman what was the perfect fit for in the draft, and with what Brian Flores wants to do with his defense. So I was a little I was a little perplexed by what the Minnesota Vikings did. And then the other team is the Lions, and I do think Detroit's gonna bounce back after last year, and I think they kind of have the gift of having the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. But but he drafted Blake Miller with the tackle from Clemson with pick 17. I thought that was a reach there. So they then drafted Derek Moore from Michigan with pick 44. So, but I wasn't really particularly a fan of the Lions with their ability to test what their weaknesses are. But I do think the Lions do wind up making the playoffs as well. But I don't have as high a ceiling on the Lions as I do with the Rams, for example, in the NFC. So it's a lot to dissect from the draft. But NBA, so let's do a quick rundown of stuff going on in the NBA. So I'm going to start with the Eastern Conference. I think there are three series that I think might be worth discussing big picture. The Knicks and the Hawks, that series is going to Game 6 tonight. The Knicks have a chance to win and wrap up that series with the win tonight. But I will say that there are some concerns with the Knicks, particularly when it comes to the close games, because they had a 1-point loss in Game 2, a 1-point loss in Game 3. Both of those endings were inexplicable by the part of the Knicks. But they bounced back big time in Games 4 and 5, and Jalen Brunson was terrific. Karl-Anthony Towns was superb in the Knicks drubbing of Atlanta in Game 5 on Tuesday, and I do believe the Knicks are going to wind up clinching that series tonight in 6 games. So I think it's going to be terrific. Terrific for them to see. And I think the bigger picture thing with the Celtics and the 76ers. Now, Game 6 tonight between the Celtics and the Sixers, and I do think Boston's going to wind up winning that one tonight as well. But But Boston lost a huge opportunity to gain extra rest ahead of a potential round 2 matchup with the Knicks by losing at home in Game 5 on Tuesday. And look, I think the Celtics. I still think are such a well-run organization. Joe Mazzulla has actually done a really good job with the Celtics roster this year, but I just don't think this Celtics team is as good as they were last year. Sure, I think they can be much better next year when they have when Jason Tatum has a normal offseason, but the Celtics losing kind of gives the Knicks an opportunity if the Knicks wind up winning tonight to wrap up their series with Atlanta. So Knicks, Hawks, Celtics, Sixers. I very much think we're gonna have Knicks Celtics in round 2, but. But I also thought interesting developments in the other side of that Eastern Conference bracket with the Pistons and the Magic. Detroit wound up winning against Orlando tonight last night on the heels of 45 points from Cade Cunningham, a Pistons postseason record in a single game. But look, I didn't think I said at the start of this the regular season that Orlando was going to be a sneaky team for whoever played them in the first round, based upon the additions that they made and how well they play together. So that's going to be a fascinating series. Game 6 between the Magic and the Pistons takes place on Friday night in Orlando, with Detroit hoping to needing to win to force a Game 7 back in Detroit on Sunday. And then the Cavs and the Raptors too. I thought this was kind of a weird series. Because like I wasn't really high on the Cavs, and especially after they had given up 74 points in the first half of Game 5 against Toronto. But they did step it up in the second half defensively, and they turned their defensive intensity up several notches. But it's hard for me to take this team seriously. But I think the crazy thing is that the winner of this series between Cleveland and Toronto might have home court advantage in their round 2 series if they go up against the Orlando Magic. So that's gonna be a fascinating end to that series. I don't believe in the Cavs Raptors winner that much, which kind of brings me home with Knicks Celtics. Does a potential Knicks Celtics series feel like the Eastern Conference, the real Eastern Conference Finals to me? Because that's what I'm surely interpreting as a result of the results coming out of the Eastern Conference. Now on to the Western Conference. OKC swept Phoenix. That was pretty easy. San Antonio defeated Portland in 5 games. That was pretty easy to see. Which leaves 2 series left. So you have the Lakers and the Rockets. So that Austin Reeves came back from injury. We're still waiting on Luka Doncic, and when he's potentially able to return for his injury. But Game 6 Friday night in Houston. We might not even be able to see Luka Doncic unless the Lakers advance to round 2 against OKC, but that's not even a guarantee in and on itself. But give the Rockets credit. They went to LA last night, a gutsy, gritty performance with their backs against the wall. Tonight in last night in LA, but I will say what LeBron has done in Luka's absence really hits home how special it has been for the league to see the greatness and the genius of LeBron James. So that I thought that has been inspiring so far from the Lakers. And even in the loss tonight, 25 points in 39 minutes. He was 0 of 6 from 3-point range, so I think that was kind of like the big difference with him this year. But still, entering game 5, he had averaged 22.5 points, 8.3 rebounds, 8.8 assists in the series so far. So, which is simply amazing for him at 41 years old. So that's great stuff as well. And then you have Denver, Minnesota, and I felt that the series was going to go deep because I think Jokic is the better player, while Minnesota I think has a deeper roster, a better roster, and that team beat Denver in the playoffs in round 2 a couple of years ago. And I think it's gonna be an intense game, game 6, between those two sides. And it's gonna be great there as well. So, lot of NBA conversation. Stanley Cup playoffs have been in full swing. That we had. 2 series are already decided. That the Carolina Hurricanes swept the Ottawa Senators, while the Colorado Avalanche swept the Los Angeles Kings in their first round series. But I'm gonna do some quickies on the rest of these series. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Philadelphia wound up winning in the series in 6 games. Game 6 was last night. They won 1-0 on a Cam York overtime goal with 2.5 minutes left in the first overtime to win the series and knock the Penguins out of the playoffs. But I will say Philadelphia has been pretty inspiring the last several weeks, and the Porter Martone effect has simply been superb, outstanding. And you got to give the Flyers a lot of credit. I was dead wrong on the Flyers this season, and now they're going to play in round 2. A much taller task, I believe, against the well-rested Carolina Hurricanes squad. Then you have the Atlantic Division playoffs with Buffalo and Boston. The game 6, I believe, is tonight in Boston. While Montreal and Tampa had game 5 of their series, they went into last night's game tied 2-2 in the series. Montreal wound up going to Tampa and winning game 5. So game 6 in Montreal on Friday night. I think it's going to be a terrific. It's been a great series so far because there's been so much competitive back and forth nature between those two sides, and I hope from a hockey fan perspective, the series goes 7 games. The Avs and the Kings, we discussed that. And then Minnesota up 3-2 on Dallas. I think Quinn Hughes has made a big difference for Minnesota this year, and we're seeing why with some of his play defensively. Vegas and Utah, that their series, they had their series tied 2-2, and at this time, at the time of recording this, they were in overtime with Vegas and Utah tied at 4 each, with the winner going up 3 games to 2. So we will have time to get a result for that game before it's all said and done. Maybe one side scores, and I can get that result into the podcast. But then you also have Anaheim and Edmonton. That game 6 tonight in Anaheim, with the Oilers facing elimination, and there's gonna be a lot of pressure, obviously, on Connor McDavid and company to make sure they don't lose to this Anaheim Ducks squad that has been playing pretty well recently. going into the playoffs. So we'll see about that as well. Quick updates for Major League Baseball that the Red Sox and the Phillies fired Alex Cora and Rob Thompson respectively. This comes after disastrous starts for both of those squads, but arguably no team has had it worse so far through 5 weeks of the season than the Mets. I mean, the Mets have just been an absolute unmitigated disaster. So that they're decimated by injuries. And so the starting pitching hasn't totally been its part yet, and the offense as a whole has just been so flat so many times this year. I mean, and it's just been frustrating that you've had the slow starts from Bill Bichette, Marcus Semien at the plate. You had Juan Soto on the injured list for 2.5 weeks. You have now he comes back now. Francisco Lindor goes on the injured list, and Carlos Mendoza doesn't seem to have a good grip or feel of what's going on and how to get his team to perform. So, I mean, I was wrong on the Mets. I did not think a start like this would come, but the Mets have just been a disaster. But then you have the Yankees. They've been playing really good baseball lately. The Dodgers have been the Dodgers, although they lost a series at home to the Marlins this week. Give the Marlins some credit. And the Braves have played such inspiring baseball that their starting pitching has been terrific, and their dudes are getting it done. Matt Olson hit a walk-off bomb for the Braves tonight, last night against the Tigers. So that's encouraging stuff there. The NL Central has been a gauntlet this year with Cincinnati, with Pittsburgh. The Cubs have played inspiring ball. The Brewers have been the Brewers. So yeah, you have to be inspired by all of that as far as I'm concerned. And then finally, I do want to wrap up by giving you my my pick to win the Kentucky Derby. And there are a few horses that I think have a good shot to win in the Derby on Saturday. At Churchill Downs that you have a bunch of speedy horses with Further Ado, Commandment. Renegade, I was thinking of him before he wound up drawing the tortured number one post. When the field came out last Saturday, I thought that was as bad a draw as you can get for him. And Chief Wallaby has been good as well, but I'm gonna go with Commandment on this one because he trained by Brad Cox. He's gonna be ridden by Luis Saez on Saturday. He has 2 buyer speed figures of over 100. No other horse in the field of 20 on Saturday has more than one. So. As he's in winning different styles of racing, going in between horses, being near the front and being near the pack. So as long as he breaks well, which is going to be key more than anything else here, in my opinion, when you have a field of 20, I think that's good. That's going to wind up being being my pick. In the Kentucky Derby, he's made 5 starts. He won each of his last 4. His last race he won the Florida Derby, I believe. So I think you definitely have that to look forward to. So I can't wait for this. I think it's going to be a competitive Derby. It's going to be a little chilly, but I do expect the track to be fast on Saturdays because it doesn't appear like there's much in the way of rain this Derby week from Louisville. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that transpires as well. So that will do it for this week's edition of Hooked on Sports. Thank you so very much for listening in or tuning tuning in if you're listening watching this on my YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to my channel there and subscribe to the podcast where however you're getting it. This way you never know you never miss notification of episodes. So until then, take care everybody, and so long, and have a great week, guys. Take care.